Right, it's bloody freezing. It's literally 0, but it's the first day that the ground hasn't been soaking wet. So I'm driving the Volvo to the workshop. This will be the first time I've driven it properly since I've done the head gasket. I don't think the AFRs are going to be right yet, so that'll be a bit of testing, but I just want to know how it feels now. So at the workshop now, and it was a pretty uneventful journey because it was way wetter out there than it seemed when I left. So it's sort of wheel spinning up to about, well, 3rd gear was spinning, 4th it actually had some grip. It was so cold and damp, so couldn't really give it too much, but at one point I had a chance to give it some in 4th to check, and yeah, it leaned out. Basically by about 5,500 RPM it was about mid 12, no, by about 5,500 RPM it was about mid 11 AFR, and it was rising, sort of 11.7 I think. So I let off because it was getting worse, and yeah, that's as far as it's got so far. Apart from that, it felt fine, but yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, it needs a bit more fuel top end, it seems. So I could put the fuel pressure up a bit, but obviously that affects it right across the board. I could change one of the chips to one of the others I've got, but I need to see if there's anything that's suitable. So I'm gonna have a bit of a fiddle about and see what I can do. Apart from that though, all seems okay. No problems, no leaks, no nothing as far as I can tell. So yeah, I've had more thoughts about external wastegate position as well. Obviously, if you remember right, I initially said I just wanted it coming off the turbine housing, and then in a recent video it was like, hang on, we haven't actually got room to do that. But we have. Basically, we didn't have room underneath and stuff like that, and yeah, it, you know, the best way would be underneath, you know, attached to there, but there's no room for the gate there. And Thomas was like, fuck it, let's just kind of just build a link pipe and move it here somewhere, you know, just a small link pipe from the standard manifold here and put a wastegate on there. And that's a normal thing to do. Do you know what I mean? That's not like an unusual thing. It's like the common thing with these Volvos, but I want to keep it as simple as I can. The less parts, you know, the less parts the better. Do you know what I mean? The less joins, the less everything. So I'd really like it just on the standard manifold like that. And then I thought, hang on, I can do that. It can come off here somewhere and the wastegate can go here. I mean, literally something, you know, wherever. I mean, it can go there, it can go there. This is all under the bonnet line, and this wastegate is fairly compact, but I can get, there's what is it, Turbo Smart, the 40mm Turbo Smart V-band ones anyway, they are quite a lot smaller than this, and they would, you know, take up even less room. So it's not too close to the brakes, it would clear the bonnet. So yeah, I know Thomas isn't keen because he's like, well, if you do that, then, you know, if you change turbo, you'll have to modify the housing again and so on. But yeah, honestly, I think it's worth it. I like this idea, I really do. So yeah, at the moment, you know, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna end up having a screamer at the bonnet, and I kind of don't want to because it's just what everybody fucking does, and you know, I don't really want to, but in all honesty, there's not many places I can put it. Although I could probably aim it like that and then put the pipe so it goes back down to the downpipe, which I wouldn't mind on this car, to be slightly more, you know, subtle, because this car is kind of meant to be a bit of a street weapon, so attracting attention with fucking screamer out the bonnet is not necessarily the best idea. But either way, I do prefer it something like this, you know. But there you go. It's a couple of parts for the Volvo boat engine that's going in the MX-5. One part I've had before, but I don't recall ever actually showing it on a video, and one part that's just arrived. So let's start with this one. It's pretty obvious what this is. But yeah, decent rods. These are the max speeding ones, which again, on 4 cylinders, I've never seen anyone break these even at like 500-600 brake on a 4 cylinder, and I'm not going even that high, so I'm 100% confident they'll be fine. The build quality is honestly bang on. You know, wouldn't question these in a million years. Despite, you know, my engine is the 2.5 litre. These are for the 2.3, because 2.3 and 2.5 use exactly the same rods. Just the 2.5 uses different pistons with a different pin height to make up for the longer stroke of the 2.5. So with these in, it should be absolutely bang on. And that's literally the only bottom end upgrade I'm going to be doing. In this box is something a little bit different. First, an alloy crank pulley for the front of the engine. A couple of reasons for this. Wow. Quite a few reasons for this. Firstly, it's a lot lighter, and the standard one's really heavy, and this should make, I want to sort of make the rotating mass as light as possible, want a real light flywheel and so on. Also, because we only need the first 2 ribs, and because it gets close to the front anti-roll bar, I'm going to machine off the first one of these as well to make it clear. Another bonus for this, notice the bolt holes in the back. That is to attach a trigger wheel for an aftermarket ECU. So that's why I bought that. And these brackets here are bolt-ons to the red block engine again, to run a crank sensor to pick up off the trigger wheel. So basically all of this allows me to run the Motec M4 ECU that I've got lying around at home, and yeah, job done. Proper ECU on the car rather than the standard one that's running on the 940. I mean, to be honest, the 940 one, it works really good, and I like the simplicity of it, because, you know, there's not much to it. But a proper ECU will help a lot with things. So, and as soon as I've got a Motec M4 Pro with all the options enabled, just at home waiting to be used, I'm going to use it. I just took the original crank pulley off that engine, and this is the lightweight one I've got. So, well, makes sense to see how much difference it is in weight with our good old scales. I mean, the difference is very, very obvious when you lift it up, but we'll see what it really is. So the original feels heavy as hell. 2.9 kilograms, that is for anybody who cares about pounds, that is, hang on. £6.50. Feels a lot heavier, in all honesty. This alloy one feels like it weighs nothing. 0.8 kilos, which is 1.88 pounds. So yeah, significant. Not as much as the flywheel will make the difference, because on these, you know, you can be talking, well, I want to go for this super light, like 7.25 inch flywheel, so it's going to weigh about 3.5 kilos, whereas the standard one weighs about 12.5 kilos. So, you know, it's all significant, but this is nothing compared to what the flywheel difference will make. The one thing I don't like about the flywheel is having to pay for it, because it won't be cheap, but fuck it, you know, it is all part of the thing. It's meant to be a lightweight, revvy, fun car, so the most I can take out of the rotating mass, the better. So there we go. Next job I got to do today is do the porting on the head and the exhaust manifold for the MX-5. The block is here, ready to be, well, ready to be checked and me put the rods in, but that can wait. But yeah, first job, port the exhaust manifold and modify the head. Obviously I'm not going to go too crazy on the ports this time for reasons I've already explained and shown, but I am going to modify the combustion chambers to make it more of a Hemi type head, soften the chambers as they call it in American V8 world. This is my old test head. I'm going to use this one as a guide, so anytime I'm a bit like, oh, you know, unsure if I should go and do something, I'm going to use this head as my practice dummy to, you know, potentially wreck it, because it doesn't matter. So I know what I can do or can't do on that one. And yeah, that's about it really. So I guess I better get on with it. I wanted to, it's bloody freezing here, so I'd like to stay by the heater, but the machine room's down the back, and although I could bring the airline here, it would make fucking bits go everywhere and be messy, so I can't do that. So I'm off back there to get very cold. Right, after what seems like God knows how long, felt like a long time, but I think it's just because I was cold and bored. I think it was only about an hour. I've took the manifold, well, I fully ported it basically, took it out to T3 flange size. In here, well, you can see the fucking enormous difference. I mean, but yeah, I mean, the difference is, well, it's dramatic, as you can see. I mean, like here especially, the route for the exhaust gas to get out is now a lot shorter than it was. I mean, you can see even from here, but here it went up, and then it was a very sudden, I mean, they got a nice collectors. I've not modified that because it's great, but this is just strangles it down into one thing, which is not great for flow, I must admit. I mean, for a little turbo to spool real fast where it wasn't making much power, yeah, of course, but aside from that, no. Another thing I've done, well, I've done the best I can, but you can't do it fully, is one disadvantage of cast manifolds is fucking hell. It is like, in here, it is so rough, it's unreal, like 100 times rougher than the outside. It's really bad. And this one is smooth as silk. Unfortunately, obviously, I can't get in, I can only go as far as, you know, on these two ports, I've practically done it all, you know, from both sides. This one, nah, you know, you're talking that much of each, you can't touch. Only way I think you could realistically do that would be with like extrude honing and stuff like that, which is neither cheap nor common to get done, so I'm not going to bother with that, unfortunately, as much as I'd love it to. But yeah, the whole insides of the standard one is just so rough, it's unbelievable. But this is 100 times smoother now, and obviously much freer path and so on. This is the inlet ports, well, the exhaust ports really, but the inlet to the exhaust manifolds. You see the difference. The main, all I really did is port match it. You know, I've not done anything fancy, but obviously I've smoothed the inner sort of, the short side, whatever you want to call it, so it's not so fucking sharp as it is on these, but nothing too much because I didn't want to make it too thin. But generally, again, these are now nice and smooth, whereas this one is, you know, worse than like you know, like a pumice stone or something like that, or really the harshest sandpaper you can think of. It's worse than that inside these is standard. They're real bad, but obviously you can only go so far. But on these two, like I said, on these two runners, feeling it's practically perfect. You know, I can still feel a little bit where I can't reach it with any kind of sanding thing or whatever, but obviously these, there's no way I can get to some of it, so whatever. But yeah, generally these manifolds, I like the design. I mean, look, it's got a nice collector. It's, you know, these are proven to like well over 450 brake, so it's fine for what I want, but obviously they need modifying, and that's what I've done. So now I've got to go on to the head, and I really fucking not looking forward to this, because, wow, knackering up that one's kind of knocked my confidence a bit. But yeah, it's just, I've done too much of it. But once it's done, and I never have to do it again. So yeah, I might as well just get on with it. Right, I guess it's time to port the heads. Not really looking forward to this, but whatever. This is B230 head gasket, which is the same bore as the 2.5 that is going on it. Obviously the longer stroke, which is why it's 2.5. Don't know if you can see. If you can see the way it's a couple of mil, I think it's 3 or 4 mil in total, but a couple of mil either side, obviously, which makes up the 4 mil. And that's the difference between the B200, the 2 litre, which is a smaller bore, and these 230s. Obviously, you know, it's not a huge amount, but I mean, you can really tell here, whereas there's a fair old gap between the cylinders on a B200, but 230, look, very little in comparison, because there's about 4 mil extra, you know, 4 mil less room. So yeah, this is why I kind of like B200s, because there's a lot of meat on them, a hell of a lot of meat, so things are less likely to blow up. But to be fair, I have yet to have a head gasket go between the cylinders anyway, so you know, you can say whatever about that, they've always gone out to waterways. But this engine's not going to be running anywhere near the boost that my you know, my 940 is. You know, if I can honestly, you know, say if it makes 400 at 1 bar, fucking happy days. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, I want to be able to kick the shit out of it all the time and be reliable. And I haven't got big power goals, so we will see. We will see what it makes. But honestly, if I only need 1 bar, then fucking happy days, 1 bar. but I'm modifying this head a fair bit, the combustion chambers especially, not so much the ports but the combustion chambers, because I'm using NA pistons. So well, A, I want to get rid of all this squish area because that promotes det, and B, it also helps reduce the compression ratio. And because I'm using NA pistons, I would prefer to get the compression down to sort of high 8s rather than high 9s like it currently is. So yeah, I better set to work. Thanks to the wonders of pens, I can show you roughly what I've got to work with. Yeah, I can get to deshroud the valves a little bit, which is, a good bonus for flow. And mostly it's going to be smoothing all this out to a bowl shape, basically. Kind of like I did on that one, but more so. That one I kind of was just a rough guess. I don't know if I got any pictures, I'm sure I have, of the one that's on my Volvo. Well, that was in the last video. You saw the shape of the Volvo one. It'd be the same as it, same for this. Just well, slightly better, more care taken. I don't bloody know. I've just finished the basic die grinding of the heads to remove the squish chambers and to what they call soften it. Obviously it's nowhere near finished. I've just got the general shape the same for all of them now. Well, close enough that from this here on in I'll be using porting bits and so on to gradually get it the same. But I've got the general shape of it now, and that's the main sort of bit done. So I'm glad that's over with. I'll explain a little bit more about all this softening the chamber shit. Obviously it lowers the compression. Obviously, like I've said before, removing the squish pads and so on helps reduce detonation on turbo engines, while squish is kind of more efficient, should we say, on especially on NA stuff. On turbo stuff, the flat surfaces, it just promotes det. If you look at like the like American drag V8 2-valve things, well, it don't matter if it's 2-valve, 4-valve, whatever. You look at any race one practically, high boost turbo one, and they haven't got squish pads. They are softened chambers. And the reason they always say that the Hemi engines, like they use in top fuel dragsters, are like the kings of boost, and why they, why these things are always the ones they still use for mega boost no matter what, is because of the valve angle. Basically what they say is any valve angle less than 14 degrees is very prone to detonation versus an inclined, an angled valve. And if you look at a Hemi head, I'll see if I can put a picture up or anything, the valves are either side of the chamber, and the chamber is a very deep dish. But like I said, anything below 14 degrees is said to be not good and can, really benefit from this. But this Volvo engine, 14 degrees is 0 degrees. It is literally, the valves are flat. They are flat to the bottom of the chamber, which is basically the worst of the options, basically. Coming out the side is best, but unfortunately this design is the worst design. So yeah, all the more reason I'm getting rid of it, basically. I mean, it's worked on my 940, so it's not like I'm doing anything wacky. I know it works. I've done it loads of times. It's certainly not for everybody, but it's what I want to do. So yeah, that's why. Well, it's looking pretty good, and I've not fucked it up, so that's one up on the last head I tried to do, but it's still not quite finished. Honestly, I thought I'd have this done hours ago, but no. Obviously the main bit, the main shaping and whatever with the die grinder, you know, it's quite fast. But then getting everything smooth after and blah 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 just takes forever, and I'm still not done. There's a little bit of smoothing left to do in the chambers, quite a lot to do in the valve bowls. But yeah, it's getting there. I mean, it looks quite nice now, to be fair. Yeah, I've not gone mad on the porting for either the inlet or the exhaust ports, to be honest, because I don't really think I need to. I mostly concentrated on the bowls. I'm probably not done yet with taking away some meat off them, but it's mostly sorting out the bowls because that's where they're really bad. Looking at the exhaust ports, although there's a lot of meat to take away before you even get to the gasket, it just seemed to me like there wasn't much point, because it seemed like the valve area was the most restrictive part, so enlarging the ports wouldn't have made any difference. And the inlet ports, again, I've not like wildly enlarged them or anything, because frankly they are fine. This again, it's the exhaust ports that are bad. But I have sort of, they've both been, I wouldn't say wildly enlarged or anything, but they've both been improved, put that way. They've both been smoothed out, closer to the gasket. I mean, to be honest, I gasket matched pretty much the inlet ports. Exhaust ports, no, because ideally you want to go smaller to bigger, or at least the same, not the other way around. So, and it just seemed pointless spending ages on the exhaust ports. This has mostly been about getting the combustion chambers to be the style I wanted them, and yeah, they're pretty much there. Not done yet, but yeah, they're getting there. I think my next step for the Volvo is to change the chips for one of my other two fuel chips. These are ones I've tried already, and I've marked 10.5 to 11 and rich 9.5. Obviously that was on the old specs, but I'm not, well, I don't remember if this was on the old injectors or these bigger ones or what, to be perfectly honest. But I think this is the next step to try. I'd rather you know, mess with these rather than tweak the fuel pressure, because the fuel pressure will richen it up right across the board, and it's only at the very top end where it's running lean. And these, if I remember right, ran, you know, lovely right across the board. It just affected the very top end. So I might put one of these in just for the drive home from the workshop and see on the way home and work it out from there. But one thing's for sure, the different ignition chip from Martin Smith has made the you know, boost response mega better. Like, put it this way, the cam timing's back to like about 5 degrees retarded, which is, well, 4 degrees I think, which is what made it laggier, too laggy for me really, on the original chip. And now with this turbo and Martin's chip, I'm seeing full boost at like 3,500 RPM, even with the cam timing retarded that much, which is literally 1,000 RPM faster than, you know, before, which is ridiculous. I'm seeing full boost at part throttle, you know, in like high gear, which is definitely wildly different than before. So it shows, well, I've said it enough times before, mapping has a lot bigger effect on how a car spools than most people ever imagine. They always like, oh, my turbo's laggy or this, that, the other. And quite often it's the dog shit fucking way it's been set up. So yeah, there's a lot to it. Right, before I go home, I'm going to change the chip in the ECU and use the drive home as the test to see if it's made it any better. So let's do it. It's dead easy. Bend back the tabs and you'll be able to pop it off. Pull the chip out, swap it in, done. So that is the current chip. Genuinely no idea what one it is, to be fair. But I'm going to put in the one that seems to say 10.5, 11. I'm going to mark this one quickly to say, you know, that it's a leaner one, and go from there. The one I just took out, which I've put 11.5 and 2021 next to it. I put 11.5 plus actually, I think, and 2021, so I remember which one it is. The one I'm putting in says 10.5, 11, but I don't actually know when that was or what the spec was at the time, so it might be wildly wrong, but we'll see. Right, just putting in the 10.5 to 11 chip. Done. So yeah, put it all back together, pull it in the car, see what happens. I know it'll run fine because they all do. Just depends what the AFRs are on boost. So we will see.
Next day.
Right, that's the head done. I could have carried on porting forever and it would have achieved fuck all. I had to stop myself, in all honesty, because it's one of them things where you can carry on and on and on and on and on to get it absolutely fucking, you know, mirror perfect, not a mark on it, everything identical, and you'll gain like nothing. I bet you I could have spent half the time on this and still ended up with almost the same result. But anyway, I've done it, I've stopped myself. I'm not like totally happy with the final result, as in, you know, I could make it better, but I've stopped myself because I know it won't make any fucking difference. It's like I'm wasting my time, you know what I mean? Getting the ports, even getting the combustion chambers fucking perfect, you know what I mean? I could be there forever and just wasting my time. Do you know what I mean? This is, you know, it's pointless. So I've stopped myself. I cleaned up the valves, put them back in, put plug in it, got a load of bright pink antifreeze, and CC checked the combustion chambers. They all come out at 60cc, which is good. I kind of thought they would, because on the 940, even that one, and that was the first one I did, and I spent very little time. Wow, even I could see by eye there was noticeable differences between the cylinders on them. On this one, they are near as damn it the same, and even that old one was only half a cc different. So when you actually look at 1cc of liquid, it's quite a bit. So you would kind of notice a fucking difference by eye. So yeah, they're all 60cc, and going by my calculations, with the standard pistons that's currently in the 2.5 litre boat engine, it will make the compression 8.6 to 1, which is literally perfect for what I want. I had it in my head, I think standard's 9.7. I had it in my head that if I could drop the compression by about 1 point, it would be ideal. A bit less wouldn't have mattered. On my 940, that headwork dropped that 2 litre down by a whole point. But this has got bigger chambers than the 940 one. But obviously it's bigger capacity, and I didn't know exactly how the maths worked, but I knew it would be there or thereabouts. And yeah, this turns out to be like 8.625 to 1 or something. And obviously there's variables in these mathematics anyway. So, but yeah, let's say 8.6 to 1, which is fucking fine, you know. And yeah, like I said, very basic porting on the inlet and exhaust ports. Mostly spent time reshaping the bowl underneath the valves, because that's where it's most restrictive. And obviously the combustion chambers is where the real work was, because I've removed the squish pads totally, softened the chambers as they call it. Obviously de-shrouded the valves a little by going around the outside, taking it out to the 86mm bore. I think that's what the bore is, or is it 96? Whatever it is. I took it out to the bore, and yeah, 96 I think. And yeah, it's all good. So yeah, that's enough of that. I guess the next job is to build up the head, pull it onto that bottom end. Well, put some rods in that bottom end as well, get it on engine stand and inspect it. So yeah, clutch and flywheel's on its way as well, a lightweight one. And the Volvo, that's a point. That chip I tried, it was obviously, you know, the AFRs that I mentioned in the video. I've written down on the chip must have been for the old injectors, because these bigger ones, it was more like low 9s on boost, so a bit too rich. It ran lovely, it was fast as fuck, no misfires, but which shows how good the ignition system is, but it's too rich. So I'm going to put the old chip back in and up the fuel pressure a bit and see if that gets it to a better level. So there you go. Yeah, it probably needs more fuel then. That's normally what turns up the boost on these. And you know, sounds mental though, fair play. Huh? Yeah? Did they say anything or no?